When you go to sell your house, there are a lot of things to do in the upfront work to get the house ready to sell. You want to get your curb appeal right, you want to declutter the inside of your house, but one of the most important things you have to do is price the home correctly. There are 10 mistakes that sellers often make when pricing their house. And using any of these mistakes in the pricing process can actually cost you in the end. So, what are the 10 mistakes to avoid when pricing your house when you're putting it up for sale? That's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. I'm Sherri Ann Green with Coldwell Banker. Welcome to my YouTube channel that guides home sellers and home buyers in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. The first mistake that many sellers make is hiring the agent who recommends the highest sale price. In the industry, we call this buying the listing. It's when an agent overly promises you a price that you can expect to receive on your house. It's an overly optimistic price of what your house may sell for. The idea here is that you go under contract with this agent, and then if the offer doesn't materialize, the agent discusses with you a price reduction fairly early in the listing process. Now, any house that's been on the market too long should be discussing a price reduction. But if you are going with the agent simply because they have recommended to you a higher price or a promise that they can sell it to you at this overly optimistic price, it's probably a mistake. The second mistake many sellers often make is pricing your house based on your financial needs. Certainly, when we go to price a house, you're going to do the math and see where this puts you financially at the end of the deal. But pricing your home solely based on your financial needs is a big mistake. The buyer is going to do their research just like you and your listing agent are, and they are going to know if you have priced the house in an unrealistic fashion. The buyer doesn't consider into their calculations of purchase price on a home your financial needs. In the end, a home is worth what the market will dictate. A home is worth what a buyer will pay for it. And it is in no way reflective of the equity you have in the home, the mortgage you need to pay off, any financial debts that you need to clear, or the profit that you want to make. The third mistake that sellers often make is thinking they are leaving money on the table if they price their house at market value. So they ask their agent to overprice the house, and they want to leave room for negotiation at the end. This is always a mistake. There's no such thing in the District of Columbia and Virginia as an underpriced listing. Buyers will always tell us if we have priced it too low. How do they tell us? They show up in droves and they write offers. And they write offers for over the list price. They write offers that have fewer contingencies. A seller can wind up with multiple offers. But an overpriced listing that is waiting to not leave money on the table and negotiate that price down is going to sit and it's going to linger. Buyers don't mind overpaying for something that they think is a good deal, but they are often hesitant to start negotiating down from a seller from the start because they believe that the seller is unrealistic to begin with. So why would they try to get the seller to a price that they should have put their house at from the start? There is something psychological that comes into play when we go to sell an asset, and your home, which is likely your largest asset, that psychological experience is even more severe. We have to think about our own psychology as a seller and how that is affecting what we go to do when we go to price our house. And then we have to turn around and think about the buyer as well. It's a two-way street with a transaction. So what do we do as a seller to get our house priced correctly, and what might this cause the buyer to do? Pricing it where you should, not leaving room for negotiation, is always the right answer. Pricing it to leave room for negotiation is always a mistake. The fourth mistake many sellers often make is putting their house on the market with the notion of, we're going to leave it here and just let the market catch up to our price. And that's a mistake as well. Believing that you should put your house on the market early and wait for the market to catch up to the price at which you want to sell is problematic. Buyers watch days on market, and they will notice that you put your house on the market 2, 3, 4 months before. And even if homes are selling for more 2, 3, 4 months after you put your house on the market, the impression that every buyer is going to get is, why didn't someone buy this house 4 months ago? They'll think there's a problem. So the idea is that when you go to price your house, you have to look at this current snapshot in time. What is the market doing today? What is the market telling me, the data telling me that I should list my house for? That's what you want to do, not project where you think your house would sell in 4, 5, or 6 months. In theory, I can see where this sounds good. You're not putting a lot of pressure on your agent to sell it quickly. We're in no hurry, so it's okay if it lingers. But what we have to do again in this case is put ourselves in the shoes of the buyer, and their impression is going to be lingering days on market, problem with the house. The fifth mistake that many sellers make in pricing their home for sale is trying to put their home at a price that accommodates every upgrade, design choice, and maintenance bill they've ever had for the home. You will put your property in a place that is above where the market value should be, likely. Yes, there are upgrades that can make a huge difference to your bottom line when you go to sell. Kitchens, everybody loves a kitchen. Whether people cook or not, they love a great kitchen. Bathrooms are another place as well. Neutral paint colors. All of these things are a great idea. But coming to your agent with a list of every single thing you've ever done, every design choice you've made, every maintenance bill you've ever made, and saying, we have to get paid back for all of this, plus the value of our house, is just not going to work. Sometimes we make design choices that are very personal. We may like white walls or gray walls or purple bathrooms, but your buyer may not. And so what we have to remember is that we are pricing a home based on what the current historical data is showing us. Part of why we make design choices or upgrade choices or maintenance issues is to make the home livable for us while we live there. That sort of, let's call it the cost of doing business, right? The cost of having a home is having some maintenance issues, some upgrades that you need to make, but it doesn't equate to the bottom line of your sales price. It doesn't mean that all of those get added on to your sales price. Part of that expense is you enjoying the home as yours. So, thinking that you can add every maintenance, upgrade, and design choice invoice onto that sales price is a mistake. The sixth mistake that many sellers make when going to price and sell their house is only countering on offers that are close to their original list price. So they have offered you a price that is lower than you want and lower than you would expect. Many sellers can take that in a way and be offended, and you can't be offended. You have to stop for a minute and remember that this is not only your home, but this is now a business transaction. And that's the way the buyer is looking at it too. So when you get an offer that is too low, I always say you have to subscribe to the counter culture. And by that, I mean you have to counter an offer. An offer is just that. It's an offer. It's not the final. So when you get an offer that is too low, you have to counter. If you have a buyer who loves your home, who wants to buy it, they're seeing where they can start with their price and where they can get you to move to. It goes back to what I've talked about earlier, is that if you overprice your home, a buyer is going to come in lower than you expect. They're not going to help you figure out where that middle ground is inch by inch from your side. They're going to start from their side low and see where you will pull them up to. And it is always smart to counter every offer that you get. But counter reasonably. Don't counter back with $1 under your list price. You never know how far they're willing to come up until you try. The seventh mistake that many sellers make is pricing their home at exactly what their neighbors sold for. We've talked a lot about taking relative properties, properties that are similar to yours, and using those as the data to price your house, and that is the right thing to do. But what you can't necessarily say is my neighbor sold for this, therefore I should sell for that. If your neighbor's home has some major upgrades, has a better layout, has a better lot, has a better design, there could be a reason that your buyer sees the difference in the price. Even if you were built by the same developer at the same time, there still could be reasons that your neighbor's house is worth more to a buyer when you go to put it on the market. Studying the relative properties that relate to yours in looking at what to price your home at is a very detailed process. It isn't strictly a numbers game from they sold for X, we'll sell for X. You have to look at the details and compare. Sometimes even homes in the same neighborhood aren't apples to apples, and you have to do some adjustments to your price to get it at the right value, the right number when you go to put it on the market. The eighth mistake many sellers make is pricing their house based on what the current active competition is priced at, not what the comparable properties have sold for. That's a little confusing. So when you're going to price your house, the first place you want to start with data is what has sold. And you want to take a look and see if you are apples to apples or apples to oranges and come up with what range your house should sell in. It is also wise to look at the homes that are actively on the market that would be competitors to your sale. What else are buyers going to tour and look at and potentially make an offer on? Now, what you don't want to do is price your home based on what that house is priced at. It may not be priced right. So if you price it simply to meet their price, it may be overpricing it. You want to make sure that you're pricing based on historical data and then comparing and contrasting that to what is active on the market to see the number that makes sense to price your home at. Simply looking at the house down the street that is priced for X and saying we should do that too may not be the right answer. You want to look at what is sold. That gives you a more accurate picture of where your house will sell for as well. The ninth mistake many sellers make is pricing their home based on the automated values they find on the internet. They're on a lot of different sites. You've seen them. You've probably looked up your house because you're curious. Just remember that those numbers are an algorithm. A person has never stepped foot in your home and all of the competition to take a look. It is simply an algorithm based on past sales and some data added together to come up with a number that your house might be valued at. Your house may be valued at more than that. Your house may be valued at less than that. There's no replacement for a real-world expert going in to see your home who has also seen multiple other homes that have sold or are on the market and then coming up with the right price for your house. I'd caution you even to ignore those prices all the way around. It's one of those things that you want to look at. You want to see, well, what does so-and-so say that my house is valued at? I get it. But remember that using an expert, using real-world data, comparing homes in a very detailed fashion is much less risky than taking an automated number generated by an algorithm and saying, that's what my house should be priced at. The 10th mistake sellers make in going to price their house for sale is letting their emotions run the show, or in this case, letting their emotions run the sale. It is an emotional process. I have sold multiple homes myself. I get it. It's something you love. You have a lot of memories there. You've put a lot of time and effort and maintenance into. And it is often common as a seller to think your house is worth more than it really is. And to you, it probably is worth that much. You've celebrated anniversaries here. You may have brought your first baby home here. You've had birthday parties here. There are a lot of emotions wrapped up in owning a home. I get it. But we can't ask a buyer to pay for those emotions when we go to sell the house. But what we have to remember in pricing a home for sale is we have to let our emotions take a nap. They have to be put to the side. We have to think like business people, and we have to think like buyers. And what can we do to get as many buyers as possible interested in your home, attracted to your home, through the front door of your home and writing an offer? Take your emotions out of it as much as you can, and make sure you're looking at your home sale from a business transaction. You will thank me in the end. There is a lot to think about when you go to sell your house. Pricing is just one, and how you think about pricing is a lot of what we've talked about today. And I hope these 10 mistakes give you something to think about as you go to put your house on the market. But you may need more to think about, and that's why I have this entire YouTube channel. It is dedicated to residential real estate, and it offers a lot of guidance on how to sell your house correctly, the steps you need to take, some advice along the way. Make sure you subscribe.